Yeah.
Well, if people haven't tightened their belts in the real estate industry, they should. If you're an investor though looking to buy,
That-
there's always somebody who's doing well in any particular market. And I think, even though interest rates are high, this could be an opportunity for people looking to invest. If you have
mhm.
sellers that need to sell, because I have to tell you, the majority of the sellers I'm working with are 100% committed to selling. Like they're not going to not sell.
We're back with a top 1% agent from King County, AK Seattle, Beth Traverso. And I'm actually going to open this conversation because I just finished a conversation with Omar Alfaro, who works in the high desert of California. And Beth, I don't know if King County's the same, but the high desert, it really appears like it's slowing down. Inventory is building, transactions are down. And interestingly enough, median home price is up because again, we're selling
Yeah.
more above the median
Mhm.
than the lower end. So Omar and I were kind of the opinion that the next 6 months will very likely be some of the lowest transactions of his 20-year career. I'm wondering what you're seeing up in King County.
Yes, it's definitely an interesting time, and I am feeling some slowdown here, not to that extent that Omar's feeling. What my most recent recollection of that feeling was in around May, June 2022.
Oh yeah, I
That's when
remember.
everything fell off a cliff for us, where sellers were panicking, buyers weren't buying, inventory spiked, prices dropped, and it was a massive reset. And then we pulled our way out of it. And what I'm seeing now in King County, Seattle area is a little more inventory, but houses are still moving. I'm seeing some price reductions, but not as many. What I typically see this time of year, so in our market, we have our run up in the first quarter where the prices reset at a higher level. So say just for easy math, you'll say like a house is listed at 1 million and then it gets a bidding war and sells for 1,000,001 or 1,150 or something like that. And then the new ones start coming on at the higher price. So the next one, instead of listing at 1 million, they might list at 1,050,000 or maybe even at the 1 and then you can't have prices increasing on top of it's only you only get so much increase within a certain time period, and then it's going to level out. And then what we're seeing now is that the bidding wars aren't happening necessarily. Sometimes they still do. I track, of course, every day I'm watching to see what the sold for, over list price, under list price. I'm starting to see a few more coming in under the list price, even in the hot areas, especially if their starting price is higher. So it's like where you're starting and where you're ending. And we're starting to see that gap tighten significantly. I'm not seeing a lot of stale inventory still because we're still under 2 months. We got our latest data from the Northwest Multiple Listing Service for the month of June, and we're still it went from 1.2 months of inventory to 1.6 months of inventory, so it is increasing, but I'm not seeing it stacking like I've been hearing these tales from other parts of the country, and maybe that's what Omar's seeing too, where it's just getting tougher and tougher. But um we aren't seeing necessarily, it'd be rare to have 5 to 10 offers on a property at this point, but
Okay.
if we get two, that's still good. So for me, it's a lot about managing expectations for sellers in particular and making sure they understand. I just had a conversation with a seller right before this call. We were talking about cannot guarantee multiple offers. We need to price at a fair price and make sure you're willing to accept
Mm,
that fair price. We may or
yeah.
may not get more, we might get one offer quickly, we might get two, we might get none. It might take a little longer, and that's to be expected right now and to be planned for. So I think a lot of it's about managing expectations too. But
I love it.
um
I love it.
what did I'll have to watch Omar's video to get some more insight on what
Well,
that.
again, I think he's looking at the situation. Inventory in the high desert went from kind of a low of 500, now it's approaching 1100. So inventory is stacking.
Yeah.
It's really interesting that transactions are way down as well. And then he's like, Michael, I don't get it. Median home price is up. I'm like, yeah, of course it's up because what we're seeing is the housing market's freaking broken, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got all this stuff stacking above the median. The low end stuff still moves, but
Yeah.
and that's where all the price drops are is the
Yeah.
higher end stuff. So it's just a math formula why median went up when transactions went way down.
That makes sense. And I am seeing a lot here. So, 2.5 million or more, that's our high end. And they are starting to stay on the market longer, even when it seems like these houses are spectacular and they're priced well. Just the buyers aren't coming as quickly and they're taking months to sell, and they often do price drops. It's usually a six-figure price drop too. At that price point,
That's
it's
it.
going to
That's
be
what I
at
want
least
people to.
six figures.
This is important, and in what you've taught me about King County or Seattle is the median price, roughly speaking, is $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So I keep telling people, if you 2x the median, in most markets, that's going to be a luxury home. Maybe in King County, it's 2.5 million. That stuff is undoubtedly stacking, and you're going to get a massive price drop,
Mm-hmm.
and that property is going to sell, and it's going to pull the median home price higher. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
Drives
And
people crazy.
that's exactly how it works. And you got to look beyond just the headline numbers. There's always a story behind why these things are happening. And often what's reported in the newspaper or whatever is going to be just skimming the surface and not really looking below it to see why is it that prices are going up while inventory is increasing. But you just explained it. And I'm starting to see that a little bit too. And we're also, so also, if we're looking at month over month, this is the time when we do see prices start to dip a little bit. Like last time we chatted about numbers, we were back at 1 million, which was our high in the King County, Seattle area. And now it's dipped a little bit to 925. But it always dips this time of year a little bit. So for me,
Mhm.
I need to see like if it persists, and if it's lower in the first quarter of next year, that's when we'll really know, okay, this is something really different. Because the first quarter of 2022, for example, was bananas. And then the first quarter of 2023 we were double digit negative. So, and it's all about the bidding wars. Because if you have houses going 10 to 20% over list price and bidding wars, then all of a sudden the bidding wars stop, your median house, it's not, the price isn't getting bid up. So it's going to
Yep.
stay at the level. We still are a little bit about 102% list
Mm.
price, sale price, which actually was a little higher than I was expecting. I would have thought that over the entire county that we would have been right around 100% or maybe even 99.5 or something like that.
Right.
I was surprised to see it still over list price.
Well,
Median, but
very,
and
very
below
cool. Well,
me.
let's
Yeah.
look at the June numbers because again,
Let's
you
look
you
at it.
have them.
Yeah, let me do a screen share here.
And credit to who again?
This is the Northwest Multiple Listing Service. Thank you, Northwest MLS, for sharing our data. Can we see it? Do
Yes, I
I need
can.
to? Okay,
Yep.
great. So this is the number of active listings in King County, not
Got it.
counting condos. And you can see there's a cycle, of course, 2020 and 2021 being the weird
Yeah.
years,
Look how
right?
low that went. It's
I
crazy.
know. Look at this. Oh my goodness. 412. We're talking a population of 2 million people or so in King County, Washington.
Yeah.
412. And then
Wow, that's crazy.
boom, jumped up. 2022 is when rates started uh
Hmm.
increasing
Yep.
rapidly. So look at this, shot up,
Yep.
and we're, look, like, there's no denying we're a little higher here than we were at
Yeah.
2,939 than the last peak, which was back in October. No, sorry, September, October.
Okay. So
So,
you're up about, I don't know, call it 20% from
yeah.
the last peak. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
So
and then if we
that's
want to look at
actives.
I don't know what's interesting to you. I love how we can toggle among all these things, but we got the median sale price here. We can see this kind of how this
Yep.
has kind of had some fits and starts, and we're down a
Hmm.
little bit from our peak. The thing that's interesting is we don't usually peak until about July, but we peaked in June. So there is something happening here where things are starting to mellow out a little bit. The frothiness is getting more tame,
Mm.
but things are still selling. I'm not seeing any signs of anything looking crashy by any means. So,
You know what I want to do? I don't know if you can't do this quickly, you think it would mess up the flow, don't worry about it. But I would love to do a search. I would
okay.
love to see how many active listings are above 2 million, also how many active listings are below 1 million. Could you do that relatively quickly?
Yeah. And as long as I don't pull up any actual listings, I think I'm
Yeah.
still allowed to do that. So here we go. King County.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Below a million?
No, yeah, let's do below 1 million. And I just want the raw number.
Yeah.
So,
1,375.
okay. And then do 2 million and above.
507.
Okay. All right. So
So,
what I would tell somebody to do if I was in their buy box is I would do that kind of search, right? Median and below,
mhm,
and then 2x the median. Write
yeah.
that down and then track it every week. Because
Hmm.
I think what's going to happen is you will see, at least what I'm seeing in my buy box is the luxury stuff is stacking, which you won't
Yeah.
know unless you look every day or
Yeah.
every week like I do.
Hmm.
And I think everybody can do this, so it's
Yeah.
pretty interesting
Yeah. Those are pretty easy to do. And I think you can even do that on the public facing portals
for
that
sure.
people tend to use, the
Yeah,
Zillows and Redfins out there.
yeah, very cool. Thank you for doing that. So okay, we've
Yeah,
got
no problem.
pending. What's going on with pendings?
Yeah, pending listings, number of pendings. This goes back to pre-COVID too. So we're kind of looking at the early part of the left side of the chart is going to be the pre-COVID, and then the
Mhm.
right side, everything that's happened since. So you can see we've got our normal fluctuation, which has been kind of tracking down, down, and then now, we're kind of about sort of where we were last year. Pendings are at 1,839. Now, this was back in
Yeah, May of 23.
May or so, and then it goes down over the summer and then drops most in the winter time, of course. So 1739.
Yeah,
And then, it's sort of staying right around this 1800 or so. It's kind of pretty
yeah,
much a
which is
wash from last year.
well, kind of, but you got to remember there's more listings, so
Yeah.
the active to listing ratio is really slowing the market slowing down. That's what that shows. The market
Yeah. And
slowing.
we do have 31% more active listings
Right.
this June than we had last June, which is no insignificant number. We
No,
had
yeah.
going off of really low numbers to start with, but it is a notable bump.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Right.
yeah. And then pendings, we are about, for all of King County, it says we're up like 1%,
Yeah.
0.95%, looking at the overall data
Yeah.
here.
Very cool. What other choices do we have in this?
Yeah, maybe list price, sale
Sure.
price.
There you
That
go.
one's always a fun one. This is our craziness here.
Dude, I
Sorry, this
remember
always
that
makes me chuckle every
112.
time I see this one. Like, what is this? And then boom, it just
Yeah,
dropped like a rock.
yeah, that would be the Fed raising rates very quickly. That's what that would be.
Yeah. And if you want to talk about a crash or whatever, here's the crash. It already happened. And then we kind of worked our way out of it. And it's still,
Yeah, it's still 102. That's pretty
still
crazy.
looking pretty good at about 102. So,
Hmm.
that's a little surprising to me. Like I would have thought it would have
Yeah.
been a little more like down here a little, because I'm starting to see where I am on the east side of King County, which tends to be the higher price,
Hmm.
stronger, if you will, in a lot of numbers. Um, I'm starting to see a lot of these houses that were going hundreds of thousands over list price now selling for a little bit under list price. Like typical scenario is that it sells just a hair under the list price. So I think we're going to start
Right.
seeing this number drop a little bit as we get a little further into the summer.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
cool.
I don't
Then
know if
what
there's
else we
anything
got?
else you want to see here, or we can,
Let's do days to sell. Let's do days to sell
yeah,
median.
days to sell. This always surprises me how low it is.
Oh, wow.
So
That's nuts.
it's like nothing still. 6 days.
That's
And it's
crazy.
been kind of bumping along this bottom with a few little, this 2022 weirdness when everything hit the wall.
Yeah. Hmm.
But I'm not seeing, yeah. So, I'll be interested to see if maybe people like
When,
Omar and others are
what,
maybe just ahead of us on that. And we maybe will
maybe.
start to see things start to slow down more. I'm not
Yeah.
seeing it yet.
What month is that most recent spike? Was that like December or something? Month was
Yeah,
that?
let's see. This was February.
Oh, February. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
But this doesn't make sense. No, it can't be February because that says 7 days. So, hmm. I feel like something's up with this because
Yeah,
7 days.
because
This
that
says
should be in
20
the
days.
20s.
This says
Must
20
be.
days, and it says I'm thinking that was just probably January, September, December, somewhere around
Something
there.
like that. It has to be that
Yeah,
winter. That's the real
that can't
slowdown.
be
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
doesn't go from 6 to 7 like that. So
Yeah, I
anyway,
got you. I got you.
yeah,
Can we look one more time on the
yeah,
stats, see if there's anything else I want to
yeah.
see?
So we've got number of new listings,
Yeah.
months of inventory.
You have anything with square foot? Oh, there we go. List price square foot ratio.
I don't really go by square foot too much
Yeah,
because there's too many things that affect the value that have nothing to do with square footage.
sure, sure. That's fine.
So
Yeah.
that's not one that I follow, but
All
we
right.
can look at the we can look at the number of sales,
Oh,
or
there
we
you go.
can
Yeah.
look at
Yeah, let's do sales volume. We'll close on that.
yeah, sales volume, and then we'll call it a day for this. But so you can see here again, it kind of yeah, sales volume was way up in 2021. That was when we had like 400 and something listings, you know. They
Wild.
all sold, and somehow everything else that came on the market sold too. I think a lot of that like sold before it even
Yeah.
hit. It has to be on the market long enough to reach the when they pull the data every month, and it was just selling so fast the active inventory was pending already before it just went pending before it could even be registered almost as active, it seemed like.
Yeah, pretty
And
wild.
then and then we got her up and down, and again we're a little more it's still pretty,
Yeah.
we're still way down from our earlier, pre-COVID time
Hmm.
where we were 2,700 or so back in June of 2019, and then now we're 1,700. So,
Yeah. Well,
it's
yeah.
down. Inventory's still way down. It's lean times out there. It's tough for people in the real estate industry.
Yeah.
Um, because there's just so few listings out there, and people get discouraged.
Yeah. No,
So,
that's exactly what I kind of took from Omar is I do think I've said on the daily financial news, I think the next 6 months is going to be the least number of transactions in any 6 month career. I've been doing this looking 20 some odd years. I think buyers are reluctant. I think sellers are reluctant. I think there's a lot of just like too hard. I'm scared. I'm pissed off, election, recession, all this stuff. We got the NAR settlement going into effect, I think, at the end of the month. And I will say that, if you're going to go through hell or you're going to go through the fire and it's going to be 6 months, just keep going. Because when you get to the other side of it, you're going to feel like a superhero. Because I think the next 6 months for most agents, it'll be the hardest 6 months of their career. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
yeah, I think it's going to be tough. And do you think it's going to go below, like the national numbers will go below
I
3.8,
think
or wasn't that our
you,
trough?
I think trough was 3.88. I think it could go below 3.88. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, if people haven't tightened their belts in the real estate industry, they should. If you're an investor though looking to buy,
Uh,
there's always somebody who's doing well in any particular market. And I think, even though interest rates are high, this could be an opportunity for people looking to invest. If you have
mhm.
sellers that need to sell, because I have to tell you, the majority of the sellers I'm working with are 100% committed to selling. Like they're not going to not sell for
Yeah.
any number of reasons. There's probably 3 or 4 really common reasons that we hear over and over, but they need to sell. And
Yep.
those ones that don't need to sell, whatever on them, just forget it, but they'll probably give up. But
Yeah.
those that do, maybe look at some people who can offer seller financing or things like that. Like, look,
Or take a second, right? So you can do
yeah,
this, so you can do that. Yeah. Yeah.
there's,
Yeah. I think a slow market, Beth, to your point, really benefits investors who are doing the work, who've added skills, who are in the right networks, because some people have to sell,
mm-hmm,
right? If they want to sell, they're just going to let the listing expire. They'll
yeah,
try again next year.
yeah,
If they have to sell, eventually you're going to get six-figure price drops. You're going to get clear signs. Like, for example, Matt, the mortgage guy, stumbled on a property in Sacramento, his buy box, 88 days on market, 3 price drops. Seller owned it free and clear. I told Matt what I would do is I'd give him 2 offers. Here's a cash number and here's a seller finance number. Let's have a
yeah.
conversation, right? So that
I
stuff's
love
coming.
that. Yes. And here's the thing I would say for folks that are looking out to do that, you got to have the foresight, because here's what I see as somebody who's been doing this 26 years. When things get to a point where they're slowing down. There's a reason why, and there's a psychology around it. If people are feeling fearful because of whatever, interest rates, election, recession, whatever, and they see other buyers aren't buying, like, well, why should I buy if other people aren't buying? Or maybe prices are going to go down more if I just
Exactly.
wait. And the thing is, what I've learned is this never lasts, never lasts. And even if
Amen.
you don't perfectly time the bottom, who cares? If you get a good enough deal, we know if you fast forward enough, it doesn't really matter looking. If you look back in 5 years on your great deal you got in 2024, it might be like, oh, well, will it matter if maybe like it bottomed out a couple months after you bought? Like, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But if you can find a good price and terms, good cash flow, work with the seller that needs to sell where you're able to create a win-win,
Yep.
go for it. But what I have
Exactly.
found is that a lot of people can't get over that psychological hurdle, and they end up going with the crowd where they're like, "Oh, now is not a good time because I heard whatever,"
Yeah,
and they just wait. And then when they jump back in is when they see everybody else jumping back in. Oh, this is the time to buy now. And so it's like this kind of group mentality
for sure.
that keeps that going. But if you can step back and think past all of that and look at what makes sense for you rather than trying to time the market, that's where you can find if you can go be if you can go against the grain and the crowd there, then you're the one that's going to reap the rewards. Because if you go with the rest of the herd, you're not necessarily going to benefit.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
Beth,
Hmm.
if somebody wanted to reach out, buy or sell in King County, or better yet, get a referral to another top 1% agent in the entire country, how would they reach out to you?
Yeah. Easiest way to find me is bethtraversogroup.com. Just fill out the contact me and I'll get back to you. And I really enjoy connecting with people from the one rental at a time community.
Awesome, Beth. You're amazing. Take care.
Thank
Thanks.
you. You too.
Mhm.